Hello and welcome. I am so excited to have you here today. I am Kelly Hearn, and today we are learning about knowing when to stop teaching and start telling, or vice versa, I guess. But again, I am Kelly Hearn, and you are on the channel for Transitional Leadership, where we help individuals and businesses implement leadership and career skill development to create a bigger impact. And again, today we are talking all about when to teach and when to tell. And so, if you are curious exactly what I'm talking about and what the difference is between teaching and telling, we'll get into a little bit of that today. But really, I want you to go over to the blog. The link will be in the show notes as always. Head over to the blog to understand a little bit better the difference between teaching and telling. Because today, in this video, we are going to spend more time talking about when to kind of pull each lever. So, ideally, in a perfect world, these two things would run together. You would teach and tell at the same time, and that would allow you to articulate the why, explain and demonstrate how what's going to happen ties back to the value and the mission. And you would do that consistently until you got to the point that you could create clear guidelines and expectations and tell people what to do. Now, that works out fine on a smaller issue because you can do it all at the same time. But on a bigger project, on something like a multi stage project, or maybe where you are revisiting priorities or a whole bunch of roles and responsibilities are shifting, and all of that's happening at once, you aren't able to teach and tell simultaneously. So, that is exactly what was happening with one of my clients, Mary. Now, Mary was great. She was an absolute workhorse and somehow was able to have amazing boundaries at the same time. I'm not sure how she did that quite to the extent she did, but it was a skill of hers. She was an analyst, so she would work on projects and get really deep into the weeds. She would put all of the work together, put it on a silver platter, and then she would have some help from learning and development to be able to pass that off to the group who was actually going to be doing the work. Now, there were some shifts in responsibilities, and they got to the point that they thought working with the learning and development group would be a little bit redundant. After all, Mary knew what needed to happen, and the people who were going to be doing the work had a background. So there wasn't necessarily a need to have the learning and development group step in, or so they thought. The problem was once they made that transition, as much as Mary knew, the projects were starting to fall flat. So she would hand them off, they would be on that great silver platter. And then within weeks, there were gaps and holes, and people just weren't hitting the mark. So Mary was so efficient and such a workhorse, like I said, that she would end up taking the work back. So she would be doing all of her project work, doing those deep dives, doing the analysis, while also doing the day to day work that was never meant to be part of her responsibilities. That's when I came in to do some one on one coaching with her to try and figure out what was going on there and help those projects be fully passed off to that next group where they actually belonged. But I wish so much that I had the ripple effect workshop back then because Mary could have saved herself some one on one time and money, quite honestly. Now, she would have, without one on one coaching with me, been able to understand what was missing and how she could better teach and influence the group to get the work done. Now, the problem was Mary was never teaching, she was jumping right to telling. So she was telling in all kinds of formats, which is why she thought she was teaching. She was telling the group what she did, how she did it, and then giving them all the details around why it was important that they follow exactly what she said. She told them how to do the work and that it was really important that they do the work. And she did it with training aids. So that counts as teaching, right? No, there was no teaching in sight. There was no individualized influence in sight. Now, when I say that I wish she had the ripple effect workshop, that's because without working with me one on one, she would have learned the impact of starting with a why that resonates with the group. a why that makes each individual person say, that is what I want to achieve. Now, she would have learned the power of teaching and how each piece of the process impacts the bigger picture. She would have woven that in throughout the conversations and the actual trainings and realized that only once people were to that point, they were fully on board, would she tell them what to do. That is the important timing piece. Now, this ripple effect workshop would have been an absolute game changer for not only Mary to learn what to teach and when to tell, but also to give her back her precious time on all of those other projects. She wouldn't have had to take that work back. The thing about workshops like this is that you get training and also group coaching. And so it helps people see how these principles that you're being trained on apply to absolutely everything. Everything. Because while after one on one coaching, Mary definitely understood how to get this massive project back on track, how to get her time back on track. Try as I might, I can't stand here and confidently tell you that she understood how these lessons impacted every different aspect that she was working on. And that's because in a one-on-one setting, you have tunnel vision. You want to work on one project, you want to see results in one area. And you should. There's nothing wrong with that. You're paying a pretty good chunk of money and you're spending a lot of time to do the one-on-one coaching, right? So you should be focused on that specific issue. But with training and group coaching, it's a little bit different. You have the benefit of seeing everyone's examples, hearing everyone's stories, and learning that those same principles hold true for you and for them. Then you get to do your own telling by selecting the action items that you want to work on. Okay, so you're even doing the teaching and telling right in the workshop. Now, I know that this is something that would have benefited Mary and would have benefited so many of my clients without having to go through all of the time of one on one coaching. And that's why it was so important for me to bring it to you. Now, if this sounds like lessons that you need and you want to be able to teach before you tell to actually get the best results without all of the rework. If you want group coaching so that you can get your questions answered as well as learn from everybody else's questions, which quite honestly is just such a privilege, then I cannot stress to you enough that you need to grab your spot in the Ripple Effect workshop. That is the best place for you. Click on the link in the show notes so that you can learn all of the details around what it looks like. But honestly, don't wait. We don't have a ton of time left. This workshop is live. It is not a pre-recorded training that I am putting on some sort of webinar. This is a live workshop with group coaching. And so you need to be there on May 20th. Now, if you absolutely can't be there, I am recording the whole thing, so you will get the benefit of the training and the group coaching delivered straight to your email when you register so that you can learn from it and reflect back on it for a full week after the training. All right, so again, jump over, click the link, check it all out, but I just cannot impress on you enough the value of learning in this sort of format. All right. I hope that even if the Ripple Effect Workshop isn't the right place for you, that you have learned from Mary's story and that you have a better understanding of when teaching happens and when telling happens. And if you are still a little confused on how you know which one's which, then head over to the blog to get all of that. All right. Share, like, subscribe so you don't miss a post and that none of your friends do either. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.